Our third brain structure is the Neolimbic Brain. I'm a huge fan of the Neolimbic Brain. It's a fascinating place, home to our deepest motivations and raw emotions. This is where our memory resides. Everything we experience in our lives will be recorded here, the good, the bad and the ugly. It's here where we are most of the time. I mean, this is the part of the brain that is usually running the show. It runs like an autopilot. It recognizes situations where we've already been through and immediately comes up with a set of standard operational procedures to deal with the situation at hand. Here lies everything we've ever learned. It deals with everything, from walking and talking, over driving and using a computer, to how to behave in public and all kinds of social codes you can imagine. It's highly efficient, as it will use the minimum necessary attention span to carry out tasks, which frees up attention to do other things at the same time. For example, let's say driving and having a conversation with the person next to you. Actually, any routine occupation that lets you wander off with your mind. Here you will find all the contradictions and paradoxes of our complex personalities. We are wonderful beings, capable of so much, yet limiting ourselves all the time. Basically, we can distinguish three layers of motivation. The first layer is fixed, partly formed through our genes and partly from our environment. Once we're only 3 months old, it will remain the same for the rest of our lives. These motivations give us energy and joy. They are also called intrinsic motivations. With the NBA, we have identified different types of motivation which lead to 8 different personality types. Now, every one of us has between 2 and 4 of these personalities. Sometimes they are very strong and present, sometimes, however, they get covered up and almost disappear underneath the other layers. The second layer isn't fixed. It will continuously evolve and has no age limit to do so. Here we will find our likes and dislikes. They are also called extrinsic motivations. Extrinsic motivations aren't stable nor sustainable. They cost us energy and will fade if they don't meet success. Here we will find everything that our environment has given us, from our parents, brothers and sisters, over our teachers and friends, to movies, music, video games. Basically, this second layer is like a blueprint of the cultural influences we've been subject to. They push us to do what others expect from us, what is socially acceptable. Here lie also all our irritations, intolerances and prejudices. The difference between the intrinsic and extrinsic motivations is basically the one with that little kid who has to clean his room. In the first scenario, he'll do that and will actually enjoy the cleaning itself. Yes, those kids do exist. In the second scenario, he will be cleaning because mommy told him to, or because daddy promised something sweet. Will that same kid do his homework because he likes it, or because otherwise he might get punished? And years later, will he go to law school because his dad is a lawyer, or will he pursue his dream of working with, let's say, animals? And when the time comes to find a job, will he choose the one with a fat paycheck, or the one where he loves the content? An important thing to know is that the first layer will motivate you regardless if you're great at doing what you do. Extrinsic motivations, on the contrary, don't last. The motivation from a raise, if it's substantial enough, will last 3 to 6 months maximum. As a business owner, if you have to give your people a raise every 6 months, you'll be out of business in no time. The choice between a fat paycheck and a career you love is a no-brainer from a motivational point of view. Still, a lot of people would go for the fat paycheck. This society we live in pushes us to compete and win all the time. We're primed, we're biased, we're programmed to live a life that others intended for us. The real question, though, is, underneath all that, what do you want? You, the real you, the 3 months old you, before everything else started to find a way into your limbic system. Why we should care? Happiness, fulfillment, joy. That's why. Otherwise, we'll just end up angry, frustrated and bitter, faking to have a perfect life and being miserable inside. Okay, so much for intrinsic and extrinsic motivations. There is a third layer though, a fascinating one. I'm talking about obsessions. I can hear you think, oh, obsessions, oh, I don't have those. That's nothing like me. Well, newsflash. I'm sorry to tell you, we all have them, not one, but actually many. Don't believe me? Fine, be that way. Remember the first time you fell in love? Remember the feeling. Remember how you just couldn't get enough of the other person. You wanted to be together all the time, calling and texting each other all the time, seeing the other person's face everywhere. Well, that, my friend, is what we call an obsession. And the fact that you think it doesn't apply to you is because you're not aware of them. An obsession is a passion that has gone over its tipping point. Behind it lies a compensation mechanism for a void in our life. When displaying obsessive behavior, we're thinking all the time about something or someone. Everything we do related to our obsession is just too much. We can't get enough of it, and we'll never be satisfied. It's the root of addictions. It's more than the usual suspects of drugs and alcohol. Think about workaholism, shopaholism, sex addiction, betting, stalking, fanatism, and extremism of all kinds. When they're not managed, obsessions can potentially ruin our lives and that of others. But most of all, even when they are mild, due to their compulsive nature, they just enchain us into a life of servitude, ever chasing that one thing that we can't get enough of. When obsessed, we're just not free. So to summarize, the Neolimbic brain, this is our standby mode in which we operate most of the time. It is also the home of our memories. Everything we've been through remains here, and most of all, the Neolimbic brain is the heart of our motivations, of which we distinguish 3 layers: our intrinsic motivations, our extrinsic motivations, and our obsessions.